Great. Yeah. Of course, you guys are the camera bodyguards, you do realise.
Right, I think we're ready to start now. I'm Colin McKean and I'm Chair of the Liverpool Friends of Palestine, and I'd like to welcome you all here to this meeting with the Ambassador, Manuel Hassassian, this evening. It's good to see such a good turnout here. I'm glad that a lot of people have come to hear the Ambassador. And we're very honoured to have him here. I'm sure you'll agree when you hear him. He's a very good speaker, and you'll learn a lot from him. He's been ambassador here since 2005. Now, I know that there will be people of all sorts of opinions here this evening. Some people who will be very much pro-Israel, others will be pro-Palestine. But I'd ask you please to respect everybody else. Whichever side you're on, please respect what other people have to say. Be courteous and give respect. And I don't want any interruptions or abuse. Professor Hassassian is going to speak for about 40 to 45 minutes, and then after that there will be time for questions. Unfortunately, he'll have to go probably before the meeting finishes because he's got a train to catch back to London. The event this evening will be filmed by Liverpool Friends of Palestine, and also the university group will be Friends of Palestine will be taking photographs as well. I've heard Professor Hassassian speak a few times down at the AGM of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, and he is a very engaging speaker. He usually gets about 5 minutes at the end of the session at the AGM, and that's late in the afternoon, and everybody's travelled down from early in the morning, so we're all worn out and ready to go to sleep if you haven't already gone to sleep. But as soon as he starts speaking, everybody wakes up and listens. At the end, everybody claps and cheers. So I'm sure that that'll be the reaction again today. So I'm very pleased to welcome him here this evening, and I'll hand over to you to speak now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's great to be back in Liverpool. This is not my first trip. I've been here several times, and every time I come here, I become thrilled with the great hospitality of the people of Liverpool. And of course, I would like to thank the organizers for this meeting, and I would like to thank you all for coming and to hear at least the other side of the story. And I hope that my speech is not going to instigate blood in the Colosseum, if you are prepared for that, so I'm going to frustrate you. Because we Palestinians are determined to have peace through negotiations and not through violence. That's the start. Now, the million-buck question is, where are we now with this peace process? My answer is very simple. I was interviewed by late Sir David Frost almost a year ago. And he asked me, Mr. Ambassador, I have interviewed you and you debated with the Israeli ambassador on television, and I don't have to say, with 50 million watching us tonight, how did you perform? But can I ask you a simple question? Any draconian changes on the political map, or any dramatic changes on the political scene since then? My answer was very simple. I told him, Sir David, Palestinians and Israelis today are stuck between the historically inevitable and the politically impossible. Of course, he was baffled, And he made like this. What? Can you repeat it, Mr. Ambassador? So I repeated it. And then he told the audience, 50 million people, and it was a live show. He said, the ambassador said it all. This is the shortest interview I ever had in my life. Let me start with where we are now, because it is so important for us. Negotiations, dialogue, inclusion, participation, engagement are the true lexicons of what this peace process should be about. Exclusion, incarceration, incursions, extrajudicial killing, building colonies are recipes for disaster, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to explain to you something that you already know, and I'm sure this is a well-educated audience, and many of those who are here are already converted. I'm not here to preach for the converts. I'm here to make you understand the complexities, the intricacies of our problem. This is not a conflict only over a piece of land. This is a protracted conflict that has been going on for almost a century. Why do we refer to it in political science protracted conflict? For the simple fact that there are other dimensions that are so dynamic in making it so complex, so intricate, and hardly to solve. The religious dimension, ladies and gentlemen, is imperative in more or less mobilizing and fomenting bigotry and racism. This is not a conflict that is confined within the parameters of secularism. It's becoming a conflict that had an added dimension, and that is religion, which makes it hard because people become dogmatic and become overwhelmed by ideological instincts to the fact that they will not see a solution but always look at the glass as being half empty. We are not involved anymore in conflict resolution. It has been for the last 20 years a process of crisis management, postponing to deal with the hardcore issues for the simple fact that there are no tools and mechanisms of coercion on the Israeli side to stop the humiliation of 5 million Palestinians and to continue under the bastion of democracy to occupy the people on their own land. The apex of the oxymoron is the fact that how could Israel be the bastion of democracy while it is an occupying force? You tell me. Ladies and gentlemen, the age of propaganda and fooling people that they are the chosen people and what have you. And I'm not going to engage in religion because my purpose here is not to instigate but to find plausible solutions. I come here with a positive attitude that could lead to conviviality, to coexistence, and to peace and harmony together. Who says that the three Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, cannot coexist? We have seen a perfect scene in history when we go back to Spain, to Andalusia, and see how the three religions, how the different ethnic groups could survive together and to thrive and to build a culture that we are proud of as Muslims, as Christians, and as Jews. This is where we come from, the Palestinians. It is our right to fight for self-determination. We are the only people left on this planet who have been struggling for the same principle, for the same right, for every nation in this world have struggled and got their self-determination in building their own state. We are the only nation that have accepted the humiliation and have accepted to give back 78% of historic Palestine to Israel, and we have recognized the state of Israel in 1988, but we are not going to recognize a Jewish state until the end of occupation. We are not here to play with semantics, and nobody changes horses amidst the battle. We started negotiations with certain principles, and those principles were really clear and explicit to both partners to conflict. And I still call us partners to conflict, because my attitude and my government's attitude has been a pragmatic attitude, and pragmatism, ladies and gentlemen, is choosing between constraints. It's not going to the maximalist, but accepting the optimum, and the optimum prompts me as a Palestinian to make a historic compromise. And that historic compromise has been very painful when I have accepted the state of Israel on 78% of historic Palestine, and I'm willing to settle for 22%. But Israel cannot have the cake and eat it too. Now they want to have half of the West Bank, and they don't care about Gaza being connected to the West Bank, and now they are isolating Jerusalem completely, and they are dividing the West Bank into 3 major clusters of colonies. Well, it would be impossible to have an independent Palestinian state that could be economically viable and politically acceptable and geographically has contiguity. This is where we stand, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are not dealing with an easy government. I must say, if Rabin was not assassinated by the right-wing fascists in Israel, today, not today, but in 1999, we could have our own independent Palestinian state, because he was a true partner for peace. We have to be very honest. We cannot distort the facts. But what we see today is flagrant distortions of facts. We have seen today the creation of new facts on the ground. We see Israel negotiating at the table while they are continuing to build their colonies and killing Palestinians. 57 people were killed since we were engaged in the new political process with Kerry's initiative. 150 houses were demolished. Hundreds have been expelled, and they seized their identity cards. Extrajudicial killings. That is not confidence-building measures, ladies and gentlemen. These are facts that reflects the other side is not serious for ending this conflict. It is so painful for me to see we have gone through a lengthy process of 20 years. 20 years we are trying to convince our people that the right path towards resolution of this conflict is through peace and negotiations. What we have achieved so far, the settlers have quadrupled, the settlements have tripled, the West Bank is no more a contiguous entity, Gaza is under siege for several years now, Jerusalem is totally isolated, and we are talking about peace. What kind of peace are we going to accept when Israel is flexing muscles? They want us to sign off on the right of return and to accept them as a Jewish state. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what it means? It means there is no more Palestinian issue. It means a political suicide for any leader. Even the most pragmatic leader like Abu Mazen, our President Mahmoud Abbas, will have no guts to touch that pen and sign off. Rest assured that we will never, ever accept any more concessions that could lead to the destruction of our hope and dream in building our, what I call, a mini state. In Arabic we say witayna. Okay. The United States of America graciously have accepted to be the third party whom we refer to as the honest broker of peace. the United States of America, after the crumbling of the Soviet Union in 1988, have emerged to be the unipolar power, meaning have emerged to be the police of the world. Why should Israel care about United Nations resolutions? Even if we have a certain kind of pain and, you know, we are so mad at the British when they have signed the Balfour Declaration and when they have mandated Palestine and when they have helped in the colonization of Palestine, to see that all the resolutions that came out from the House of Commons, from the Foreign Office, the Peel Commission, the Shaw Commission, the Padding Commission, the White Papers, every single document that came out from Her Majesty's government.
I've got to make an announcement, sorry.
Yes, please.
There's a red Hyundai car blocking the road outside. The registration number is DE51FDN. So whoever's it is, would they go out and move it, please?
Zionist tactic to ruin the meeting.
Can I continue?
Yes.
Regardless of all the resolutions and recommendations that came from Her Majesty's or His Majesty's government, nothing has been implemented. Nothing has been implemented. So the United Nations, the League of Nations mean nothing to Israel. As long as the United States of America has the power to veto, then Israel is in safe hands. Okay? All right. So how could we trust the United States of America to be an honest broker of peace when we see the United States of America, since Eisenhower's administration until now, unequivocally supports the state of Israel? And we know why. We know in 101 politics, foreign policy is only determined by the domestic determinants. And since AIPAC and the Christian Zionists are in solidarity with each other, they make Congress and Capitol Hill shiver and tremble from their impact on the street. So we know why. I was asked at the University of Cambridge, you professor, you have been a staunch attacker of US policy in the Middle East. But you know, the United States of America also has a lot of allies in the Arab world. How could you say that the United States only supports Israel, but it supports the Arab world? I said, my friend, let me answer you very honestly. The United States' relationship to Israel is a Catholic marriage, no divorce. However, the relationship of the United States with the Arab proxy regimes is a relationship of a lover to a mistress with no strings attached. That's the basic difference, my friend. Now, regardless of the personal efforts exerted by John Kerry, he wants to have a peace deal between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Elections are coming, and the Democrats wants to score. Regardless that Obama as an incumbent cares less, but the Democratic Party cares to have a breakthrough. And why they want to have a breakthrough? Because Mr. Obama had failed dismally in his internal politics. And the only way to salvage his image, not to be in the trash of history, but in the annals of history that he saw, the most intractable conflict in the world, i.e. the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, is the only way out for him to be a dignified president. Because now, if you look at the ratings, he is one of the most low-rated president of the United States. And this is Mr. Barack Hussein Obama, who has shown that he is more Catholic than the king and more Catholic than the Pope. More Catholic than the Pope and more royal than the king, ladies and gentlemen. That's what really makes Obama a little bit interested in the Palestinian cause. Who are we, Palestinians? I mean, what do we have to offer the United States in order to have them on our side? We are a little tiny nation trying to survive on less than 20% of the land. 5 million people are living there. Gaza is the most disastrous strip in the world, the most highly congested, with all kinds of epidemics now, with the way they're living. I mean, with no medicine, no health insurances, no securities, no food, nothing. But I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we managed to steadfast. You know why? Because we have no other option. Our battle today is not to destroy Israel. Our battle today is a struggle for existence. Our battle today is to struggle to keep our national identity, to keep our people united. And we will be united very soon, ladies and gentlemen. Read my lips. It's coming, it's round the corner. I happen to be the head of Bethlehem University for 25 years. And do you know what is the emblem of our university? And that was 8 years ago when I was president. In Latin, we have a big sign saying, "In divisa manent." In divisa manent means united we stand and divided we fall. That was the motto of my university. And I am a strong believer, regardless of our political differences. We are all Palestinians, part of the same blood, part of the same identity and history, and part of the same social fabric. We are all under occupation. The occupying forces don't make distinctions between Muslims and Christians. Don't make distinctions between Arabs and non-Arabs. If you are not a Jew, you are Goyim. It is unfortunately, that's the essence of political Zionism. We have nothing against Judaism. Judaism is the Abrahamic religion. It is the father of all religions. We have problems with political Zionism. It is an ideological and political conflict. It should not be a religious conflict. Because I'm a Christian Catholic, and I believe that my culture is Islam. And the religion of Islam is the most tolerant religion ever. Meaning, don't be smeared by the idea that these militant Muslims who are using Islam as a religion to achieve their political ulterior motives. Those are not Muslims. The true Muslim believes in tolerance, in inclusion, in acceptance. And I am a Christian, and I'm proud to be part of this civilization, ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry, another interruption.
Please.
It's the same car. It's owned by somebody called Mark Brown. It's a Hyundai Trajet. It'll be towed if it's not moved. So if it belongs to anybody here, please go.
It's probably the Ulysses Theatre.
If we look today at the political map, the Middle East, which I refer to in my speeches as the Model East, has lots of questions to raise and has a lot of problems to be solved. The Middle East and what is going on today is not a social revolution. It is a wave of political protest against bigotry, tyranny, against authoritarianism. It is struggling for reform, for political participation, for empowering women, for building civil societies, for building networks and grassroots. To build a democratic entity, ladies and gentlemen, Europe had to fight 4 centuries to achieve that. And the Europeans and the Americans, they want us just to take it a la steel, United States, and try to implant it in our culture. Democracy is outlandish to us. We have our own brand of democracy, which we call in Islam shura, consultation. We have our own brand of government called consensus. We believe in political participation. I'm not trying to advocate Islam as a religion here, but I'm trying to tell you, part of our political culture is embedded in Islam. Whether we like it or not, this is the reality. Democracy for us is something that is totally alien. It will take centuries to inculcate the elements of democracy in a traditional, patrilineal, matrilineal, neo-patriarchal society. It cannot be done by just exporting it. We're not exporting here computers and cars and what have you. The superstructure is very important to come into existence through practice and through understanding. But what we can do, ladies and gentlemen, and don't misunderstand me, I am a great advocate of democracy, but the democracy that I am fighting for, I consider it to be a neighborhood democracy, where there is cooperation, community sense of belonging, political participation, and ultimately tolerance. The Middle East problems are transient phenomena. These are not going to stay forever. We will have elections in Egypt. Things are going to settle eventually in Syria. The Iranians will resolve the matter of nuclear arms. And these are problems that have been for a while hijacking the crux of the problem in the Middle East, i.e. the Palestinian-Israeli. But I tell you what, regardless of all those vultures who have used the instability of the region to derail the entire peace process, are going to have a taste of their own medicine very soon. I promise you that. And that's why, if we don't look at the political map in the Middle East, and if we don't resolve, i.e. the Palestinian-Israeli issue, there will never be peace, there will never be security and stability in the Middle East. As I said, and I will say it again, this region has suffered of ethnic problems, of fractionalization, of factionalism, of religion. 10 years ago, or let me give you one simple example. I studied at the American University of Beirut back in 73, sorry. I never knew what's the difference between Shia and Sunni. I never knew the difference between a Maronite or a Greek Orthodox. We were all together one simple community. We never knew the distinctions. Today, unfortunately, all these contradictions are being unfolding and polarized to the point of zero-sum conflict. Do you think this just emanated because the people of the land want to fight each other? No. This is because of imperialism, ladies and gentlemen. This is the policy of divide and conquer. This is the policy of how to control the oil in the Middle East. This is how to make proxy regimes surrogates to the interests of these big powers who are feuding amongst ourselves to control oil. It boils down to nickels and dimes, ladies and gentlemen. It boils down to politics, the politics of oil. And let me tell you about the United States of America. United States of America, for the last 7 centuries, 60 years, has formulated its policy on 4 major pillars. 1, the unequivocal support of the state of Israel. The excuse, Israel is the only bastion of democracy. That's the only reliable client in the Middle East that could do the dirty job. 2, the continuous flow of oil. The Arabs cannot control the oil. We control the oil and we set the price, not the Arabs, as they say. Thirdly, containment of communism. This is the McCarthyism mentality, the containment of communism. But we don't have communism now. They had to create an enemy, because imperialists cannot thrive to justify their policies without creating an enemy. And that enemy is Islamic fundamentalism. 4, to curb any national liberation movement, to curb any leftist movement that will struggle for a classless society, and to hit communism, Marxism, Maoism, and all the isms of the world. That was the strategy, and still the same strategy. It vacillates between the Democrats and the Republicans, but the essence is one and the same, ladies and gentlemen. So how can we keep on talking about an honest broker of peace? How can we talk about an honest broker of peace when you have a top dog Israel, an underdog Palestine, with a third party that is pushing for the agenda of the top dog over the underdog? Mr. Mahmoud Abbas told them enough. You don't want to release the 4th batch of the prisoners? I am not negotiating, because, ladies and gentlemen, let's not kid each other. How could we negotiate when we are not on par with each other? When we don't look at the same level? Where we have an extreme power, a military power in the Middle East, Israel, supported by the strongest country in the world, and me supported by the weak, divided Arabs. To go into a negotiating table, that's not negotiation. That's the diktat of power politics. That's not negotiations. So let's not talk about negotiations when there is a total imbalance between the partners to the conflict. Here comes the role of the EU. And what a magnificent role the EU is playing. The EU, ladies and gentlemen, are payers and not players. They just pay the bills for the occupying force. Because as we are under occupation, Israel should shoulder the responsibility of the occupied. Who is bailing them? The money that is being given to Palestine as a means to sustain occupation. And instead of being engaged in the political process to affect the American policy towards putting pressures on Israel, we see them sitting idle. First of all, we have not to be naives. There is no consensus in the agenda of EU foreign policy. There are 29 countries with 29 different political agendas, with 29 bilateral relations, whether with Israel or Palestine. So, we don't see any military might that could, in one way or another, try more or less to have an impact on the policies of Israel and America. In the final analysis, we see the EU marginalized and sidelined, and the only way to pay for the sense of guilt is just to pay the Palestinians pittance to keep quiet and not to tell them, you shoulder the responsibility of the Jewish Holocaust, not the Palestinians. So that's the EU. We come to the Arab world. Allah masik bil khair, doctor. We come to the Arab world. 22 Arab countries with 22 political agendas, with 22 patron-client relationships. Whoever still believes on Arab nationalism and Arab unity is a big dreamer. That is the ideology of romance. It's over. We cannot kid ourselves and tell each other that still Arab nationalism is going to hold the identity of the Arab nations. Not anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, every single penny that any Arab government is paying to the Palestinians have to go through the censorship of the United States of America. I'm not talking about arms. I'm not talking about any aid. I'm talking about financial aid. All right? If the United States says no, no. So what do we care about the billions of dollars of petrodollars if nothing is reaching the Palestinian people in arming themselves or in building their state or what have you? Nothing. Beyond moral sympathy, the rest is pittance. So we have a divided Arab world. We have an Islamic world that is not still realizing that Israel, with its policies, with the settlers, are desecrating their our religious, holy land. They're not still aware. They're not still aware that every day we receive threats of marching into the Al-Aqsa. Today and yesterday, and the saga will continue, ladies and gentlemen. 45 years or whatever, since 67, Israel did not stop its excavations under what they call the Temple Mount. They could not come up with one evidence about the destruction of the Jewish Second Temple. You know, the foundations of the Al-Aqsa Mosque now is almost going to crumble. And 1.8 billion Muslims are just sitting idle and watching Israel desecrating Haram al-Sharif every day. And what are they doing? Nothing, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot, at this age and at this stage in history, keep on listening to rhetorics and big designs or grand designs. We need to have little dreams and little hopes. Because with little dreams and little hopes, we can reduce our frustrations and become more convinced that it will take some time, but eventually we will achieve our goal of having our own independent state. The Palestinians are also divided between Hamas and Fatah. And it did bring nothing except calamity to the people. And Israel has sparing no moment in adding fuel to the chasm. Because that is the policy of divide and conquer. But today I tell you, with what is going on in this so-called peace process, and ladies and gentlemen, peace process resonates to me Beethoven's unfinished symphony. This peace process is Beethoven's unfinished symphony. Because there is no peace and there is no process. There is no tunnel and there is no light at the end of the tunnel. We are stuck, as I said, between the historically inevitable and the politically impossible. Unless we have a serious third party, unless we have an international community that goes beyond moral sympathy and take action against Israel, which is acting like a pariah state, with a garrison mentality, with psychologically obsessed with the issue of security, nothing could be done to change the facts of life and to change the political realities on the ground. I am not advocating yet BDS against Israel. But Israel is now in the line, if not already, of being dubbed an apartheid state. 750 square kilometers long, the wall. They call it separation wall. We call it the apartheid wall. Because if that wall was built on the borders of Israel of 1967, I would say, hooray, high walls make good neighbors. But when they are built 10 kilometers deep into the West Bank, this is the ultimate message of what Israel wants to convey. A political message that is not based on security. It is based that this will be your mini truncated state. Ladies and gentlemen, before we talk about this conflict, any Israeli, official or non-official, those who are fighting for the state of Israel, those who are advocating for the state of Israel, and those lobbyists, whether BICOM, AIPAC, and what have you, one simple question I would like to ask them. If I am a partner to peace, please, for crying out loud, and I pray for Jesus, Muhammad, and Moses, to tell me as a Palestinian, where are the borders of the state of Israel, ladies and gentlemen? Where are the borders? Can they define their borders? So as I can sit and negotiate a final agreement based on a border that Israel wants to put on the table and to clinch a deal with them. Please ask this simple question. What does Israel want? They want peace. Peace has a price. And I hate the word concession. Ladies and gentlemen, it kills me when they say it's going to be painful for them to dismantle settlements. My God, they have taken all Palestine. It gives them pain to concede from our land, pain from the remaining 22% of Palestine. How on earth people can be fooled by such propaganda? Maybe I'm the loudest ambassador of all. I cannot defend my country, and I cannot be advocate of the Palestinian issue. Ladies and gentlemen, every single British citizen who goes there and he sees with his eyes are the best ambassadors for the righteousness of the Palestinian cause. I don't want to sound with my great passion that I'm an extremist, and I'm not. I'm a humanist. I'm a citizen of the world. I believe in the global village. I believe in the interaction of people. I believe civil societies should be linked through peaceful means. I believe grassroots actions could bring people closer together. We are faced with environmental issues. We are faced with nuclear threats. We are faced with shortages of water. We are faced with epidemics. We are faced with cancer. We are faced with diabetes. We are faced with so many epidemics that we as a people should join forces. We should come together and say enough is enough. We need to live in peace and security and harmony. This is what the Palestinians have been raising as a banner. And we have accepted the humiliation for so many years now. We have accepted the realities. Israel has to exist. We have accepted the realities that we should have an open Jerusalem. I don't want Jerusalem to be divided, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want the Israelis to control who should go to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, or to the Holy Sepulchre, or to the Church of Nativity. I want Jerusalem to be free for every Jew, for every Muslim, and for every Christian. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
agree that he's certainly no pushover, is he? I think that was an absolutely fantastic talk, wasn't it? I mean, out of the hopelessness of the situations it seems to be, we can see that the Palestinian people have still got that samud is the word, is it? Persistence, and they're going to remain and keep on fighting. And you know, and if the present peace, if the people who are running the present negotiations can't succeed, who is going to take over? Who is going to be as moderate as these people to obtain what is still a two-state solution? I mean, whether there will be a two-state solution is another matter. So I think that the defiance and the persistence of the Palestinian people is beyond doubt. So if Israel can't agree with this, with the present regime of Palestinians, how is it that, who else is going to be there for it to agree with? There won't be anybody else as moderate as these people, who will stand for what they believe and yet are willing to make a big compromise and live on only 22% of the historic land. We're now going to have questions. I'd ask you to, if you're asking questions, to give your name and to address Professor Hassassian with your questions, please. Okay. Would you like to?
Yes, certainly. Hassassian.
Would you give your name, please?
I'm David Forster, and there was a very interesting speech that the Labour Shadow Minister Peter Hain gave to report on the New State website, in which he said that the window of opportunity for a two-state solution was rapidly closing. It was time that politicians in the West began looking seriously, possibly to a one-state solution. I wrote to him saying that he was very brave to say this, especially when his own party was so resolutely in favour of a two-state solution. He said, well, I ran this speech before the Labour hierarchy, before I gave it, nobody raised any objection to it. So it would seem that there is beginning to be forming in political circles in the UK the idea that maybe two-state solution is a dead duck. What would you say to that?
Okay. Can you allow me to take off my jacket? Because this is the fun time now. This is where we start. This is the challenge. This is the excitement.
I'll look after it, don't worry.
And I'll take this off.
Start the war now.
You know, since I was a student of political theory, I was fascinated by Antonio Gramsci. And just to answer and to complement what he has just said, I am not here full of pessimism, ladies and gentlemen. I wouldn't have given this speech if I'm pessimistic. He taught us pessimism of the intellect and optimism of the goodwill. So I come here with the spirit of the goodwill. Because if I will say that I am pessimistic, then I have to accept the reality that occupation will stay forever. I come here with the hope and the vision that occupation is round the corner. It has to end, ladies and gentlemen. Amen. The slave has to unchain himself. Enough for bigotry, enough for supporting an apartheid regime. I think the people are going to wake up and say to Israel, enough, we're not going to allow you to continue with this. As for you, sir, I stand in front of you as a diplomat, as an ambassador. And I go beyond the red lines of being a conventional diplomat. Because maybe such a speech my president wouldn't have liked me to say. But I will say what my conscience tells me to say. Within the parameters of understanding the principles of fighting occupation. That is the most important thing for me. Is to liberate my country. Armed struggle, terrorism did not really pay a good price for us. We are now embarked on a very tormentuous path, and that is the peace process. This is where the adamancy, the vehemency of the Palestinian people in steadfasting and in accepting the challenges of occupation, and to fight it through dialogue, through inclusion, and not through alienation, and not through expulsion. That's the message that we are conveying to the world. As a diplomat, I tell you, this is the official position of our government. We are still believing that we can salvage the two-state solution. Listen, this apartheid wall is built by concrete blast with 4 bolts. Trust me, in 1 month, this wall will be gone if Israel intends to have peace. So let's not say that these realities are going to stay ubiquitously there. No. Settlements can be dismantled. And I tell you, one of the solutions, we say, settlers want to stay, ahlan wa sahlan. But they have to be Palestinian residents. Okay? And they have to be under the sovereignty of the Palestinians. Okay? They are welcome to stay. But they cannot stay as with the gun-ho mentality that they are settlers and have the law in their hands. This is not acceptable. But if you want to ask me as a humble academic, I see that the two-state solution is a mirage. It cannot come into fruition with such practices that Israel is committing every day. I think the issue of a two-state solution is being finished with Israeli practices of continuously building their colonies. The only solution is this long-term solution. Let's revive Andalusia. It's the one-state solution.
Yes, would you like to say something?
Alan Chester. Name's Alan Chester. For 19 years, Jordan occupied what's called the West Bank. Did you regard that as an occupation?
My friend,
And if not, why not?
you know, my friend, for 6 decades, we have been answering this rhetorical question. 6 decades. And I thought I would have anticipated a question that looks forward towards reconciliation. And not to keep on playing the blame game that Jordan was occupying Palestine. My friend, in 1948, when the war broke out, 750,000 Palestinians were forcefully diasporized. And that's why we had the refugee issue. In 1950, the Palestinians had no leadership. It was totally destroyed. They had no leadership whatsoever. Jordan became, with the acceptance and devolution of the Palestinians, to become the custodians of the West Bank, East Jerusalem, while the Egyptians were the custodians of Gaza. And this situation continued till 1967, when the war broke out. Now Israel, brilliantly in 6 days, conquered all the Arab military regimes, right? And they have occupied the remaining parts of Palestine. Now this is occupation. The people of Palestine have the right to resist occupation. I tell you what, no matter who comes to rule over us, we don't want the Israelis. That's my simple question. Jordanians, Egyptians, Syrians, ahlan wa sahlan. But we don't want the Israelis. Period.
We had that
Can I
experience.
just say something? You know, I mean, you said when you first started off, you were saying about peace, that you're there for peace.
Yes.
Can you tell me why are the Jews being battered by rockets all the while? They're coming over on, you know, where are
where the rockets coming from? Are they coming from outer space?
Yeah,
Yes.
every day.
Come on, where are they coming from, sir?
Okay, I'm gonna answer you.
Please be quiet, please. He's asked his question. Just be quiet. Everybody else is being quiet.
He's a born-again bloody evangelical Christian. He's always
First of all, let me correct your semantic. I don't accept from you the word Jew. Say Israelis. Because the word Jew is racist. When you say Jew, you are making me anti-Semitic. Okay.
Salvation is of the Jews. The Lord Jesus Christ said that. Sorry. Salvation is of the Jews. He loves it down from Ireland.
He's that evangelical nut on Church Street.
Okay. Can you cool down? I'm going to give you the answer.
Can I ask you a question?
No. Let me answer this one.
A question, or will you not accept my question?
No, I will accept
You
your
will
question.
accept your answer. Okay, I've had my hand up all the time. May I ask you a question, or will you not answer my question? Through the chair, sir. Through the chair.
Please give your name.
My name is Christopher Proudlove, and I'd like to ask our distinguished guest why he left the San Remo Treaty out of his talk this evening. My understanding and the understanding of several international lawyers is this treaty, which became effective in 1923, which was unanimously approved by the 51 members of the League of Nations and taken on board by the United Nations in 1945, gives Israel the right to settle Jews anywhere between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea, including Gaza. Why have you left that out, and why have you not mentioned Jordan, which is 78% of the old Palestine?
Let me first, I think I like this. It's getting really exciting for me. Please, try to barge me with these questions. First of all, with all respect to you, the creation of Palestine, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, what have you, are the creation of colonialism. So don't talk about San Remo and don't talk about the United Nations. The United Nations, before that, the Peel Commission, the Shaw Commission, have always tried to mediate and create a Jewish state because of your Balfour Declaration. It's not because the Jews or the Jews who are diasporized and were massacred and killed. You have
Talking about European
state basically in Palestine. That's not acceptable.
I thought acceptable for you to use the Jew word.
Quiet, please. Stop the
Chairman,
No, you may not. He's not finished yet.
So, San Remo or the United Nations resolution and what have you are things that we had to accept and to survive. We had to accept those realities, okay? A war broke out. Palestine was taken over, 78% of it. We were left with 22%. It was divided between Jordan and Gaza. This doesn't mean, my friend, that Israel is entitled to control even the remaining parts of Palestine. And that's why we are asking Israel, and we have accepted the United Nations resolutions. We have accepted the state of Israel on 78%. What do you want more?
With respect, the United it's international law.
Thank you.
It's international law.
Mr. Ambassador,
Yes, sir.
Thank you for allowing me to say a few words. Firstly, I'd like to comment on the deference that's been shown to you during this speech, despite the fact that there are probably about 30 Zionists here. Let me just say to you that if we have an Israeli speaker, whether it's an ambassador or someone that wants to do a little dance or someone that wants to sing a song, a lot of these people here would make that impossible. So firstly, we're going to talk about democracy and justice. Let me show you the respect that we pro-Israelis have shown you this evening. Now to my question, sir. I want to actually make a comment, because I think you speak with forked tongue. I think you double speak. You say Jew is racism, but you use the word Jew several times.
No.
I remember not so long ago in your speech,
No.
you said the Jewish attitudes are Jews or Goyim. Did you say that, sir? Did you say that, sir?
I did not say that
You said
in the
Jews or
context.
Goyim.
Listen, I did not say that in the context of racism.
It is the same way. It is the
I
same
said
way
this has been,
you're a Muslim or
this
an
has
infidel.
been,
It's the
this
same
has been the ideology of the present-day government with the religious dimension. With the religious dimension.
So let me ask you the question.
This is not, you're not asking. You're not
When
asking.
Israel, in 1977, when President Anwar Sadat came over to Israel and said, trade me land for peace, what happened? Israel gave back 3 times the size of Israel back to the whole of the Sinai. Why? Because they had a partner
After
for
the
peace.
Egyptians kicked shit
Who
out
is the
of you.
partner for peace? Oh, let me think. Is it Islamic Jihad? Is it Al-Aqsa Brigade? Is it Hezbollah? Is it the Palestinians? You can't agree. We don't know who we're talking to. You say you want to talk at the same level, you might say one thing to me in English, in Arabic, it's a whole different story. We know that we're not stupid. Half the Israelis speak Arabic. They know what you're saying. So, sir, you speak with forked tongue.
Can I answer you, sir?
Yes, please.
I've just heard you. I heard you enough.
Well, I've heard you enough as well.
Well, if you don't like what I say, you can walk out.
Go!
If this debate is not going to be, if this debate is not going to be based on democracy, that we Palestinians and Israelis, like, I think we should stop. If you want to argue,
Don't like the other side. You only want one
if
side.
you want to argue, I would like you to argue with respect. As I respect you. I respect you, sir. And I respect what you stand for. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse
Oh,
me.
Biggie, since he was invited.
Okay,
Just keep quiet, please. He's answering the questions. We don't want other people to be joining in.
my friend, we have taught time and again that it's not the Islamic Jihad, neither Hamas, nor Hezbollah that signed the Oslo Agreement. It was the PLO, my friend. The negotiator today is President Abbas. It's not Ismail Haniyeh, neither Mash'al. You have to make the distinction. They are not part of the PLO. The PLO made the agreement with Israel. The PLO had recognized the state of Israel. It did not recognize the Jewish state. It recognized the state of Israel. And it has accepted to embark in a process in order to come with understanding of ending the conflict with the independent Palestinian state over the 1967 borders. Now we had went 9 yards by accepting the realities of these colonies. We said that we could go back to the 1967 borders and try, basically, to negotiate a final deal with land swap. Land swap is the concept that gave the flexibility to the Palestinians and to the Israelis to see how they are going to end the conflict by having all these colonies over there. This is where we have embarked on this process. I have nothing. For your information, I've been teaching with an Israeli professor for 20 years, every summer, and this summer is coming in July, at the University of Maryland. Do you know, sir, what I teach with him? I teach the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and how to solve that conflict. I have still hope. There are many progressive Israelis in Israel. Today, they are supporting the justice of the Palestinians. I'm sorry.
I remember watching Arafat with my dad on the White House lawns, And that's what you remind me of him, because he reneged on the peace treaty. You've just said Abbas now is different to the PLO, and he isn't. He takes his orders. He said out of his own mouth that he will never say Israel has a right to exist. So, no, you can shake your head, but you stand there and lie. But I do have to say as well, besides that, people in this room know you're a diplomat and you come out with lies, because Arafat did it and you're doing it. No different at all. You're a disgrace to my family, who are Catholics, and you do not. You say you're a Catholic and you're a liar, because the Catholics Old Testament, where God has said, I give this land.
She's another happy clapping nut. I know it.
The Catholics believe in listen. So my dad fought the way of war when I had the right to speak.
It was the Catholics who deserted the army and fought with the Palestinians.
Just questions.
Why would you say that? Why would you say that?
Please, would you give your name?
Can I ask a respectful question? Yeah, my name's John Smith. I'm from St. Joseph's. I'm a Catholic too. I've been to Jerusalem. I didn't shout. Excuse me, missus. I never shouted over you. I never shouted over you. I'm sorry. Sit. Please. A little bit of respect,
Order. Be quiet.
Yeah, I'm a Catholic too. Have you been to Jerusalem? This lady? Okay. Alright, so I just think it's a bit more respect for the ambassador. I think your talk was fantastic, by the way. I think we should give another round of applause. Absolutely fantastic. No, thank you, Mr. Ambassador. You give us a wonderful, wonderful insight. And we were here, we've seen a premiere of a new film, The Stones Cry Out. It talks about the plight of Christians also in the Holy Land, and that's really insightful as well. My question is regarding the peace process, and you said that. I have to agree with you. The Americans now are such a terrible broker, if you like, the honest broker. I think that role has gone. Who would you like to see in the role of an honest broker within Palestine?
President Putin. President Putin.
Please, no comments, just let Hassassian speak.
I think I respect, man, everything you have said. And I don't take it with a pinch of salt, because I need to answer you. And I have to answer you. Because if I believe in democracy, I've heard you and you have to hear me. Okay? If I want to introduce myself to this audience, if I want to introduce myself to this audience, I am first of all an Armenian by ethnic origin. An Armenian by ethnic origin who has been massacred, 1.5 million genocide at the hands of the Turks. I am Christian by religion and a proud Catholic by denomination. I am Palestinian by birth and citizenship. I am an Arab by nationality and a Muslim by civilization. That's my answer to you. As for Mr. John Smith,
Yes, thank you.
Please, can you please, you have to go.
you know, I'm a little bit confused because I don't think you know your religion.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't. You know who are, you are Catholic?
No.
The evangelists, the evangelists, the Christian Zionists are preaching what you're saying. Not the Catholics. Sir, it's power politics that makes us understand the reality that there is no power in this world except the US that has strong ties with Israel that could change the facts of life there. But if you want my opinion, the Americans had their share for 20 years and they did not bring the two peoples together. They did not broker that kind of peace. I pray every day for Mr. Kerry to succeed in his mission. We are suffering enough suffering and humiliations. We are suffering. Nobody said rockets are good, rockets are bad, but military Apaches and Cobras and incursions and extrajudicial killings and killing with intentions of killing is not equated with resistance, my lady. That's the basic. My answer to you, if we have a united Europe who will shoulder this responsibility, I can see a tunnel and a light at the end of the tunnel. But neither Israel would like that, nor the United States. That is the problem.
Earlier this month, Palestine has joined a number of United Nations conventions, and 15 of them, I think.
Yes.
And I wondered if you could perhaps tell us a bit about that, because you'll know things that we don't.
Yes. First of all, let me go back to the issue of the United Nations. I want to be very clear on this issue. The Palestinians, to salvage the peace process, to continue with the two-state solution, when we were cornered, we said, let's salvage this peace process by having a tacit recognition by the General Assembly, which is legally not binding, just to preserve our national identity, that these are occupied territories. It's not only inhabitants that are controlled, but these are occupied territories. That's why we went to the United Nations. But you and I know, sir, that President Mahmoud Abbas cannot cross from Ramallah to Jerusalem. He can be stopped by a 19-year-old kid carrying the arms and telling him, go back to Ramallah. You're not allowed to enter Jerusalem. That's the fact of life. That's the fact of life.
Not true. I've seen it. I came back from Israel this morning and I've seen him going through with VIP pass.
Oh, come on.
Don't say that.
VIP pass.
This is the point.
I've seen it going with his car, 140 kilometers an hour, breaking the speed limit.
You are totally wrong. You are totally wrong. What does it
I'm
mean?
not wrong. I've seen it in my own eyes.
Yes, let me answer you.
The VI pass is issued by the Israelis.
My friend, what is VIP pass? The word pass resonates apartheid.
Yeah.
I hope it will be very soon where people like you will stop talking about it, because we're going to have peace with the Israelis, whether you like it or not. We recognize the state of Israel. You recognize us. We recognize the state of Israel. You recognize the Palestinians.
This guy is a right shit. This guy, no, Victor.
This one, they're the ones I'm about to ask.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to ask you a question as a diplomat.
Please.
Which is the reason that I was interested. Thank you. As a diplomat, the reason I was interested in coming seeing you speak, was as a member of the Palestinian Authority, as someone involved in negotiations.
As a member of the PLO.
Of the PLO, I apologise.
Make the distinction.
Yes. The EU published guidelines last year on companies,
business
associations of people companies operating in the occupied territories,
especially in the colonies.
And there have been an increasing number of European banks and different investment organisations who have been divesting from the occupied territories. You spoke earlier about how the European Union has been channeling money into maintaining the occupation, and it's not been the alternative source or the alternative negotiation partner that it might be. I was wondering whether you thought this spells promise for the future or not.
Let me first by saying, first of all, I acknowledge single thing that you said. And I would like, this would be the spirit of discussion in this room. Not the finger pointing nor the blaming. I could argue till morning and debate. But do we leave this hall with the idea of bringing people together? I came here with an open heart to see solutions for our problems. Nobody's saying that everything is fine and dandy. And nobody's saying that Palestinians and Israelis are, let me say one thing. The threatening of Iran's nuclear power makes me think, as a Palestinian, we are doomed to coexist and we are doomed to die together. Now, as far as this idea, I think, the Europeans, with all respect, what makes us a little bit angry, not the idea of helping us in building our infrastructure, because, that infrastructure was built. What did Israel do in the year 2002? In the year 2000, you should have come and see the beautiful cities of the West Bank, the streets of Bethlehem, the hope for joy, the hope for peace. We were just close, touching the tip of the iceberg. 2002, the military machine of Israel destroyed everything. And the Europeans kept on paying and the Israelis kept on destroying. I'm saying, why waste that money if, in the final analysis, Israel does not want to have peace? So stop funding. We are at the brink of saying there is no more Oslo agreement. It's over. Today, 650,000 settlers live in Jerusalem, the environs of Jerusalem, which is 10% of the West Bank, let alone the settlements 140 in the West Bank. Nothing is left. Creeping annexation and land grab is a recipe for disaster. The Europeans have been subsidizing the infrastructure of Palestinians, all right, which is at the mercy of the Israeli control policies. That's what I'm saying. Now, if the European countries, through the Business Association Agreement, through BDS and what have you, start to put pressures, I think you are hitting the bullseye. Because the only thing that makes Israel suffer is its economics.
Yes, would you like to speak?
Yeah, my name's Darren. I'd first of all like to express my support and solidarity for Palestine in the heroic struggle. And
use the mic first.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to congratulate the Palestinians in their heroic struggle. And I do think when you look at the actions of the Israel and the inhumane treatment that it does on other people in society, where journeys for Palestinians say take 3 hours and journeys for Israeli citizens take 45 minutes. It's like going from Liverpool to Manchester, where an Israeli would take 30 minutes, and for a Palestinian you'd have to go via Southport. But, well, say that, I'm not having words, mate, but the question really about economics is the one thing I always think about in meetings is people have got to do actions from them to support your cause. And I'd like to know what more you want out of the people in this room on the basis of like boycott, divestment and sanctions? And further question, how do you think the imperialist policies of let's say, America, how they can be rolled back?
Let me be very frank. I am not advocating boycott, divestment and sanctions against Israel. I am advocating boycott, divestment, sanctions against the colonies and their products. If I still believe that Israel is my partner to peace, I cannot wear the double hats and the double standard of boycotting Israel and sitting at the same table. That's the ultimate hypocrisy. We're saying these illegal colonies are a breach to international law and they should not be there in the first place. You should boycott the products of these colonies. I'm not saying boycott the products of Israel. And I believe that if the Americans continue with the way they are dealing with this peace process, I think this will be the end of this peace process and the beginning of a new era, my friend. And that new era is going to be based, as far as we are concerned, the PLO, peaceful resistance, non-violent resistance, civil disobedience, peaceful demonstrations. We are going to practice the Gandhi style. We are dying anyway by the bullets of the occupation. Let us die with our chest open for peace.
I'd like to ask you a question. I was fantastic to hear that you criticised Iran and their approach. It's fantastic to hear that, because the truth of the matter is what's lacking is trust. Pardon? My name's Bernie Yates. Right, and I'm very pro-Israel. But it's great to hear that you're criticising Iran, and it's great to hear that you're also downplaying Hamas's role in this. The problem is you don't publicise that, so there's a double standard. The issue is that you've lost the trust of the Israelis, and it's time that... Absolutely, there's no question about it. The truth is, the interests of the Palestinians are being
Jews are good comedians.
by all these other powers. Forget those.
It's true.
Negotiate directly with them. Win the trust back, and then...
My friend, I didn't boo you, but I respect every word that you have said.
Like the rest of the audience.
Let me answer you. I am here not in my individual capacity. I represent Mahmoud Abbas and I am on record here. What I told you about Iran and what I told you about Hamas, simply the truth.
Why do you never criticise them when they're calling for the destruction of Israel?
Where?
Why is there never a refutation?
My friend, the answer to you is very simple.
Let me answer.
Please, listen to me. Don't get excited.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Politics excites the adrenaline in us, so we have to be cheerful a little bit, because that's how we understand each other. No dialogue of the deaf leads to anything. Searching for common grounds leads to solutions. I just want to tell you very simply, read the latest version of last summer of the Israel-Palestine Journal, of which I'm proud with Israeli to found that. Read the article, Enough Missiles, Let's Make Peace. A joint article that I wrote with Professor Edward Kaufman from the Hebrew University on Iran and what does it mean, Iran having a nuclear power for the Palestinians and for the Israelis. That will be my answer. Let me give you this homework.
Right. But why do you never criticise Iran when they're talking about the destruction of the state of Israel?
We were. Wait. Now you're crossing the lines. President Mahmoud Abbas told him, Mr. Najadi, we have nothing to do with you. Such statements are hurting Palestine and the Palestinian struggle for freedom. Don't say that there was no Holocaust, and don't say the destruction of Israel. We have accepted the state of Israel. That was the answer of President Abbas.
Thank you for your talk. That was a very good talk, thank you. My name is Gabe. You talked a lot about compromise today in your talk. And I'm speaking as a second-generation Palestinian refugee. I want to ask you, what is the current stance of the Palestinian government on the right of people like me to get back? Is that something you're willing to compromise on?
I don't need the mic, I think I have it. My answer to you is going to be so brief because we need to take more questions. Just 3 weeks ago, President Abbas made a historic speech to the Revolutionary Council of Fatah. You know what he said? I'm 80 years old. I don't want to be in the trash of annals of history. And I will never be a traitor to sign on the right of return as long as I live. That's my answer to you.
No, not the Sati people.
They had more than the
Zionists.
share. They had more than the share.
When I was studying at Tantor some years ago, I was told by Landrum Bolin,
Yes, who is a good friend of mine,
about what makes negotiation possible. And this was to do with people who tried to get people together, as a preparation for Oslo. And he said, what is it? What's the breakthrough point that makes something possible? He said, oh, that's easy. When both sides laugh at the same joke.
Yes.
I wonder what your sense of that is, and when do people laugh at the same joke?
You know, I want to tell you a joke that I was told by 3 Israeli professors from the Hebrew University. By the way, in 1991, I was the first professor to be hosted at the Hebrew University to do my what we call sabbatical year. And I have published extensively with Israeli colleagues on the peace process. And I have been engaged in 52 second-track negotiations. And I'm going to Pittsburgh to finish a second-track negotiations where we are going to submit Palestinians and Israelis our solutions to Mr. John Kerry, just to let you know. And let me tell you this joke that was told to me by Professor Moshe Maoz, a distinguished professor at the Hebrew University and a noted historian on Syria. He said to me, Manuel, it's so nice to break the ice by a joke, and this is what we do when Israelis and Palestinians sit and start negotiating. We start joking with each other. We start praising the falafel, the hummus, and what have you. We start talking about the old streets in Jerusalem, where we go and hang around, right? This is the true essence. This is what we feel, that we are negotiating peace. Not at the official level, but at the second track level, what I call citizens' diplomacy. There was, excuse me, I have to use the word Jewish, because he's not Israeli. There was this Jewish guy in Manhattan who owned a store next to a Chinese guy. Every day, at the end of the day, they go walking in the streets and they, talk to each other about their problems, what they have faced and what have you. One of these days, while they are walking, this rabbi from New York jumps on this Chinese and he starts punching him. The Chinese was baffled. He told him, you are my friend, why are you punching me? What did I do? He said, sir, it dawned on me. You, the Japs, when you attacked us at Pearl Harbor. I said, but we are Chinese. He said, Chinese, Japanese, you're all the same. Please, please. A week later, the Chinese wanted to avenge. Okay? He wanted to avenge. While they were walking in the street, he jumped on this rabbi, started pulling him from his whiskers, punching him and this. So Rabbi was astonished. He said, why are you doing this to me? We have contributed to the world Abrahamic religions. We did this, we invented the polio, we are the people of civilization. So he narrated the whole history of the Jewish people and their achievements. He told them, don't waste your time, it just dawned on me. He said, what dawned on you? He said, when the Titanic hit the iceberg. He said, what do we have to do with the iceberg? He said, iceberg, Goldberg, Weisberg, you know this.
Oh, fuck off. It's a name joke. Oh, God, just take the mic off.
This is, I'm allowed to do what I... Thank you. It's nice to hear you talk about coexistence with Muslims, Jews and Arabs alike. You also talk about the European funding. But in February this year, the Palestinian Minister for Prisoner Affairs announced that 30 million euros, not 30 million shekels, 30 million euros, its funding is going to be allocated to current and former prisoners. Now my question to you is, as a British taxpayer as well, who pays money which is going towards the Palestinian people, allegedly, how can you ensure that European funding financial assistance to the PA helps advance peace and stability in the region, promoting freedom and democracy and rule of law, and not used to reward terrorism? Because the higher the crime, the more the Palestinian people get paid for committing acts of terrorism against citizens in Israel. How can you ensure, if you're serious about peace, and if you're serious about coexistence, then the Palestinian Authority has got to stop funding Palestinian people to commit acts of terrorism? What are you going to do? What are you going to do in your capacity to help? We are where we are, okay? We need to live, whatever we believe in, whether you're Muslim, whether you're a Jew, Israeli. Hatred is not getting us anywhere, okay? And we have to find a solution to move forward. So what is the Palestinian Authority in your capacity going to do to stop the cycle of hatred?
I don't believe what I'm hearing.
Born again nut.
Just the history
Such allegations.
Yeah.
To say that the Palestinian
How many Jews have died recently?
is subsidizing terrorism. It's subsidizing terrorism. Let me finish. Then you have the right to subsidizing terrorism. Why?
The Americans
Since
do
the
that a lot.
advent of Mahmoud Abbas, and now it's 8 years almost, or 9 years, there has been total collaboration on mutual security. Not a single suicide bombing came out from the West Bank since Mahmoud Abbas made
security good on war. Let him answer, please.
You know,
How much are you here to do this?
Yes, just stop. You stop.
Tell the truth.
You've had a good MP.
just
Stop.
this. Go back and Google. There were 3 or 4 suicide bombings with that wall being built, my friends.
It's been finished.
Okay?
Not since
It's
we
not
put you
been
off,
finished.
pal.
It's the collaboration of the Palestinians and the Israelis to maintain security for the Palestinians and security for the Israelis. How many soldiers have been lost in the West Bank? We took them back to their garrisons. We took them back to where they belong. They were not assassinated, they were not kidnapped, and they were not killed.
Some of them did. Some of them been kidnapped, some of them been killed as well. You've got no manners.
Of course, he's fucking Israeli now.
The question 30 million or 40 million, this is immaterial. That's not the point. The point, if there are monies given to rehabilitate these political prisoners who went there at the age of 18 and they left at the age of 36, they have seen nothing but humiliation and torture, to rehabilitate them, that the money was going to. It was not going to commit, suicide bombings and what have you. If we believe in violence, why President Abbas is sitting with Netanyahu? Why? Then there is no need to sit. Let's wage war. If you want war, eventually you will get it. You don't want peace. That's not the language of peace by distorting the facts.
Can I ask a question, sir?
You can't bully us there. Here you cannot bully us.
If the Palestinians lay down their arms
Only they had arms.
there would be peace.
We will do that.
If Israelis were to lay down their arms tonight, there would be no Israel tomorrow.
No.
Absolutely, and you know it.
No.
So that's the end of the question, I'm afraid. Professor Hassassian has to go now.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Turn the scarf the other way.
Okay.